Greetings, jocks, dweebs, stoners, mods, punks, and headbangers, and welcome to Scrubcast, Scrubhaus Video Club podcast. My name's Glowcat, but you can call me Audrey because we're friends. And with me, as always,
I am Stark Rocker, and today I am a Russian smog monster.
yes, that is the hidden class.
Allow me to demonstrate. See, Russian smog monster.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, welcome to the podcast. It's Sunday. We do the things that we do.
Yep, it's Sunday. Just speaking of Russian smog monsters, I realized you put the flag back up.
Yeah. There's a smog monster behind me. All right. So,
leftovers.
Leftovers, yeah.
This is a thing we do every quarter to try to give our films a second chance. There's some movies that we would rather have watched, maybe, possibly, or just movies in general we kind of felt like should give a second chance. We do this every quarter, and it also allows us to kind of revisit some ideas that we were doing the first time. So
because not every movie that we end up voting on ends up being a winner. Sometimes we go into this just seeing the trailers and knowing synopsis about the film, and we think, oh, this is exactly the movie we need to watch, and it turns out to not be that.
Yeah, that's happened more than once.
So yeah, it's a problem.
And we have we have the solution, and that solution is leftovers. So, because it's leftovers, there isn't a coherent theme. It's not like when we do Jack Black movies or when we do, like, robot movies or anything like that. It's not always going to be a coherent theme. Sometimes the two movies we're going to get are going to be complete polar opposites of each other, which is exactly what happened this time.
It could have been two Christian Slater movies.
Yeah, it could have been. That was this close to just being Christian Slater movies, because we had two of them on the list. But instead, what we ended up with was our number one pick was Time Bandits.
That movie.
And our number two pick, which we're going to be talking about first, Heathers.
That movie. That movie was the one that I wasted all of my votes on. Heathers is legitimately one of my favorite movies. Legitimately.
Allow me to be salty as fuck that Hellraiser 3 did not win.
It did not win.
I would much rather.
I'm sorry for that.
Would much rather be talking about Hellraiser 3 than Time Bandits.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry. I think I have some schmutz on my camera. No, it's just catching the light. Really weird. Got this light streak going on. I can grab it. I don't know why it's like that.
Yeah.
Everything's blown out.
I don't know.
Oh, well.
I was having to deal with that last night when I was filming, too. I wouldn't even be pointing the camera anywhere near the light above me, but for some reason it would just be like... sudden
laser beam! Yeah.
I felt like a vampire. Get my face out of the light. But yeah, Heathers, 1988 dark comedy.
Starring Winona Ryder and Christian Slater.
This was on our list of quintessential 80s movies that we felt really embodied what the 80s were as as not only in film but also as cultural milestones. And Heathers was definitely one of them. This movie is 80s as fuck.
Yes, yeah. This movie is. It is the 80s. Right? I mean, it has to do with the whole popular cliques, and you get to see all of the other cliques at one point in the movie with the stoners and the headbangers and the goths and the mods and the punks. And it's really cool. It's a very dark movie at times, but it does everything very cartoonishly, which ends up making it far better than it would have been otherwise. I think that's what really draws me into this film. Yeah, for those who haven't seen it, essentially Christian Slater's an abusive piece of shit that Winona Ryder fucking falls in love with, and
fast forwarding this plot so hard, jumping directly to that.
well, she falls for him. They murder people. That's kind of what happens.
The
They murder the popular kids.
That's the this Reader's Digest version. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's like if you condense Coca-Cola down into a syrup, it's the syrup with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, pretty much. The film is actually about this girl Veronica, who's friends with the three most popular girls in school, all of which happen to be named Heather, and all three of which are super bitches. They I mean, the three of them would be what Rick Mayo would refer to as the mega bitch. And they go around harassing others and putting notes on people's tables and making fun of them and basically just being the snotty little cunts that they are. Meanwhile, you have Christian Slater's character, JD, who's the new kid in school who happens to be, at first he seems like, oh, he's the cool rebellious kid, you know, because this was before.
I don't think he ever felt that way to most people, because like in one of the first interactions that you see of him, he pulls a literal gun
Doesn't
out.
this cafeteria have a no fags allowed rule? Well, yeah, they seem to have an open door policy for assholes, though, don't they? What did you say, dickhead? I'll repeat myself.
Remember, this is pre-Columbine, so the fact that he pulled a gun out was like, what the fuck? And then, oh, it had blanks in it. Oh, what a rambunctious... This is like putting cherry bombs in the toilet, you know, sort of thing. And then you start to figure out later that, no, he's kind of fucking psycho. He's been psycho the entire film, but they play it off in the very beginning. It's like, oh, he's just a fun, rebellious character. Wait, is he putting actual bullets in that gun now? Yes, he is. As they proceed to murder a bunch of people. And he's doing all the murdering. Winona Ryder doesn't want to be involved. But it just sort of happens by accident because she goes along with it. And then realizes later, oh, fuck, we accidentally just... Or, JD purposely murdered somebody. I accidentally just murdered somebody. So as they proceed to start knocking off not only the Heathers, but also... the two local jocks, Ram and Peter, I believe his name was. Was it Peter or?
I don't remember.
I'm looking at the cast and I can't tell who's who here. As they start, they also knock off two of the jocks. They shoot them to death. They poison one of the Heathers. They do a few other things too. It starts to get really fucking dark really fast. But again, with that comedic Wile E. Coyote tone to it. Like, there's an explosion at one point, and one of the characters just ends up with black soup all over them.
Yeah, it's so cartoony. And I mean, it was directed by Michael Lehman, who is also known for directing Hudson Hawk. Hudson Hawk is also a very cartoony movie.
Very cartoony movie.
It was written by Daniel Waters, the guy who wrote Hudson Hawk and Batman Returns, both of which are very cartoony films. It's just what they do. And it ended up being really good because of it. And I mean, wow, he wrote The Adventures of Ford Fairlane?
Speaking of cartoony movies.
Yeah, it's just that's this guy's wheelhouse, you know?
Ford Fairlane has one of my favorite scenes involving Robert Englund that's ever been, ever. Like, I love Freddy Krueger so much. Everybody knows how much I love Freddy, but there's nothing to me funnier than when, at one point, Ford opens up it's like a mirrored like door sort of. It kind of looks like a medicine cabinet, and he opens up the door, and on the other side it's just Robert Englund's character, and he's just like, hello, and Ford Fairlane just is like closes the door, like doesn't even say anything. It's such a great moment. And then of course he bursts through the mirror like Freddy does and attacks him. But that's That, and also when Ford Fairlane's trying to be cool. He tries to be cool. He's got a wrist-mounted thing with a gun. Have you seen that? You know,
Yeah.
they make fun of that in other movies, but I think this was like the first time they really made fun of it, where he tries to use it and it fucking launches his gun into fucking Robert Englund's lap, and he's like, "No thanks, I've already got one." He's got a really bad accent in this movie too. It's hilarious.
For sure.
But we're not talking about that movie. We're talking about Heathers.
So Heathers is probably my second favorite Winona Ryder role. I know a lot of people like her from all different kinds of things. Stranger Things being one of the ones that a lot of people bring up. Beetlejuice is my personal favorite, of course, because as much as people want to talk shit about fucking Tim Burton, like, I love Tim Burton. I have a Mars Attacks lithograph on the back of my wall back here. Like, I carry a Mars Attacks wallet. Like, I think Tim Burton is very good at stylizing things, and I think that Beetlejuice is a perfect example of one of his films. Beetlejuice and Mars Attacks specifically are his two best films, in my opinion. And naturally, that leads to being my favorite Winona Ryder role. This is actually my second favorite. Like, I feel she's so close to her character in Beetlejuice, and it works out in that situation. She's this loser that ends up becoming a popular kid. Mm-hmm. And she's still she's trying to hide the fact that she was friends with the fat girl at one point.
Yeah. The whole entire thing is that she's, if you're looking at it from a hierarchy standpoint with these kids, the Heathers are at the very top. Veronica is sort of their protege in a way. And she's like the connection between the popular kids and the not popular kids. And they're trying to bring her up, like, you need to be one of us. You need to come make fun of these kids with us. And she's trying to be a good person. Meanwhile, JD is the fucking, this ain't the wrench getting thrown into the engine. This is the fire axe getting thrown into the engine.
I think we also need to bring up that one of the Heathers is played by Shannon Doherty. Like prior Shannon Doherty being in everything else.
Well, prior to her being in Mallrats.
This is prior to Shannon Doherty being Shannon Doherty, really. Yeah. I mean, she was like, this is prior to her being in Beverly Hills 90210, which is what most people know her from. Or Mallrats or things after that. But, like Heathers specifically, whenever you take a look here, everything prior to this was a TV series, or she did like a TV movie. This was her first big movie.
Mm-hmm. And she's one of the main characters. She plays Heather Duke. She's the first one to get killed off, and kind of the first. She's also the biggest bitch out of all of them, and the one that ends up sort of controlling the plot in a really weird way later on, where she's kind of the, hey, this, spoiler alert, there's a dream sequence later on in the movie where she shows up and she's just like, yeah, all this shit is happening, and you probably should do something about it.
And the whole story gets down to the fact that negative behavior perpetuates itself. If you cut the head off a snake, another snake takes its place, kind of thing.
It also... Your phone just went boop, boop.
It went biz, biz. It was Postmates telling me that I can get free delivery from Popeyes.
Oh, nice. The other thing this movie really hits on is how cruel children can be, and I can include teenagers in that. How cruel they are. And specifically, the idea that all of these kids, they make every murder look like a suicide, right? Because they leave suicide notes. But with these suicide notes, everybody starts thinking, oh, the cool thing to do now is to kill yourself. So when one of the girls, who actually is super depressed and really doesn't want to live anymore, and her whole entire life is horrible because she's extremely overweight, and all the kids pick on her for it, when she tries to kill herself, everybody's just all like, huh, yeah, she's trying to be one of the cool kids, walk into traffic.
Yeah, just walked in front of traffic. That's so madness.
When they bring
that sounds like the worst way.
And they bring it up on the radio, and all the kids are calling in, being all like, oh yeah, she's just trying to be super cool.
There's a song that's a #1 about doing, like committing suicide. It's this weird, kitschy, like... plot line where it's like all the kids think that killing themselves is cool, which is like not in vogue. I feel like Daniel Waters was kind of showing his age at that point in time because he was like
It
30,
it makes
writing about high school kids.
it makes sense in the context of the film being as cartoony as it is. Like, yeah, all the kids are totally, and the teachers just being all like, oh, all the kids think it's really cool to kill themselves now. No, they fucking don't. But they're making kind of the, yeah, we're gonna poke fun at this. This is kind of funny, and sort of thing. Like, they've got the one teacher who, oh man, she's like a hippie liberal arts teacher. And she's constantly trying to get the other kids to, like, we should talk about this. This is important. Winona Ryder's character just starts burst out laughing because she knows it's not a suicide. She knows it was a fucking murder. So she just starts laughing hysterically in class while they're talking about kids killing themselves. It's really fucking funny. Also, cameo with another Beetlejuice cast member, Glenn Shadix, was in this movie as a priest.
A wonderful priest. He does all of the funerals.
he's Glenn Shadix at his fucking one of his.
It is ultra stylized. Yeah. He acts just like Otho. Like,
I love seeing Glenn Shadix over the top. I think Glenn Shadix was in Multiplicity, and he plays the most like he's just like a contractor or like a foreman or something. I don't know what his deal is in the movie. If I don't remember what his actual character was, but I remember him being in the movie and him just being all like, well, you know, these lines are not. We need to work on this, and you know, you probably need to get a few more people. And I'm like, this isn't Glenn Shadix. I mean, I know it's Glenn Shadix. I can see him. I can hear his voice. I can see his face, but that's not him. Glenn Shadix has to be over the top. He has to be like a Demolition Man. He immediately starts kissing fucking
Do you know who he reminds me of, or who reminds me of him?
No.
Jim Sterling. Jim
of?
Sterling looks a lot like Glenn Shadix.
I was gonna say, yeah, like face wise, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
They're also similarly animated whenever they're talking.
There's a lot of actors and comedians and stuff like that who are very similar to him, but nobody can really do Glenn Shadix like Glenn Shadix did. And I think a big part of that is just the fact that he grew up. This is a true story about Glenn Shadix. He grew up, he was gay in Alabama. That can have a lot of influence on a person, but him being a proud out gay man from Alabama and just took that and said, fuck it, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be the best actor ever, I'm going to be fucking queer and proud about it, I'm going to put it in everybody's faces, fuck yeah, he fucking rules. I love Glenn Shadix. I love Glenn Shadix whenever I see him on film, and you know, he's passed away now if you didn't know, and you know, rest his soul, man.
It's been like 10 years.
Huge bucket of fucking win for him, because he outside of, like I said, outside of Multiplicity, I don't think I've ever seen a role that Glenn Shadix didn't go, fuck it, we're gonna crank this motherfucker to 1,000.
Town meeting. Sorry, he was the mayor from Nightmare on Elm Street, or Nightmare Before Christmas. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been great if he was the mayor of Nightmare on Elm Street. We need to do something about all of these murders.
So now we get down to the natural question about Heathers. Do you feel that Heathers is a Scrubhaus movie?
I mean, yeah, it is. It is for sure.
Yeah.
The stylization of this film, like you said, it's extremely cartoon. At other times, it's extremely comic book. The only thing that I don't really like about the movie and what kind of makes it almost not a Scrubhaus film is it's a product of its time, obviously.
Are you going to bring up the 80s homophobia?
Oh my god, so much homophobia in this movie. But it's really weird the way that they do it, because at first it's like homophobia, like, ew, gays are bad. But then when the two characters that they set up to be a gay couple that kill each other, it suddenly reverses because they were the popular kids and like, oh, homophobia is horrible. We shouldn't pick on the gay kids. We should let them know they're unexpected. And it's like, wow, that really hurts my soul as somebody who's queer. Like, fuck you.
Yeah, but that's the way society is at times, right?
But
I mean,
it's the only thing I really don't like about the movie is that the fact that they're gay is because the cops, one of which, the fucking cop is played by the guy who plays Sebastian Timms in lawnmower man.
Right, I don't know him.
I can't
I don't
remember
know his name.
I can't remember his name either. It's Mark something, but he shows he's on the radio talking to the other cop, and the other cop is just all like, "What'd you find?" And he goes, "You're not gonna believe this. I just found a bag full of sex toys." And they're like, "They were gay? Ew." Fuck you.
So I will say, this movie definitely a Scrubhouse film. My rating scale, I give this movie an A+. Heathers is one of my favorite movies. It absolutely is.
I give it an A.
Yeah, so that's Heathers. And up next we have a word from our sponsor.
All right, Audrey, what are you watching?
Well, we were talking about the 80s. Yeah, there's a movie that really encompasses the 80s for me.
Yeah.
And if you know me, it's no surprise that I love trauma films. So I'm watching Class of Nukem High. As a matter of fact, this is the scene where they're at the party and they just smoked the joint and they're about to get laid.
Put laid in very big quotation marks there.
No, it's what happens.
Yeah, but
that's like the driving force behind the movie. It's what makes spermy happen.
Yeah.
It's a major plot point. If you've never seen Class of Nukem High, I just spoiled it for you.
I'd hate to see what Lloyd Kaufman's porno folder looks like.
Well, it's probably full of toilets. He made a movie called Tales from the Crapper that almost made fucking Trauma go broke. I'm just pointing out the truth.
Can we change subjects now? I don't want to talk about this.
We can talk about the other thing I don't want to talk about. That's fine.
I don't understand your dislike for this movie. I really don't. Now, to be fair, I did try to convince people not to vote for Time Bandits. I did. I didn't want to put the movie down. I don't like... I like this movie. Don't get me wrong. I just wanted to watch Hellraiser 3.
All right. So, do you want me to go off my quick little diatribe at the beginning here? Or do you want me to wait on why I am not a huge fan of Time Bandits?
Wait, because you're gonna do we have to do the thing at the end, and when you do your thing at the end, then you're not gonna have anything to rant about.
Okay.
So, Time Bandits, 1981 British fantasy adventure film. This was part of our Empire Pictures night. It was directed by Terry Gilliam, and it's basically a Monty Python film, but not a Monty Python film. Not all the Pythons were involved. Can you stop doing that?
What?
You go every 2 seconds. Like,
look, dude, you just continue.
I can't when you keep going. Don't do that either. I'm glad you have a new headset, but stop it. And it's basically what it's about is a child who's a bit of a history buff. He likes history stuff. He's really into it. Lives with a couple of neglectful, abusive parents in the future world of 1981, where everything is computerized and has television shows like Money or Your Life. This movie reminded me. This is like the British version of The World, not the film, but The World is like the British version of RoboCop, like that world, or like Running Man, where technology is run rampant, television is violent as fuck, and everybody's an asshole. You know? Except for this little kid who's like, he's the one who is trying to, live a semblance of normal life. Unfortunately, every time that because he gets sent to bed early by his parents who don't want anything to do with him, his room keeps getting invaded by things from another world. At one point, it's a knight on a horse who crashes through his room and then disappears, and his father comes in. He's like, "What? Stop making all the damn noise." And then one night, it's a bunch of little people that just suddenly burst into his room, and they attack him. It's just they think he's an evil bad guy, but he turns out, they figure out that, oh no, it's just a kid. Well, fuck it, he's seen our faces, so we have to take him with us. And so they drag him along into this world where they travel through time, and the whole entire point is that these little guys are going through time stealing shit. That's their whole entire thing. They're traveling through time using a magic map that they've gotten from God to steal shit. Meanwhile, they're being chased by two particular individuals, God, or the Supreme Being.
Supreme Being, yeah.
Trying to get the map back, and also somebody who's trying to steal the map, Evil, played by David Warner.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up who was doing the voice of the Supreme Being as well.
I don't know his name.
Tony J.
But this is a weird film. It's a Terry Gilliam film. So if you've ever seen a Terry Gilliam film, if you've seen 12 Monkeys, if you've seen Brazil, if you've seen The Imaginary of Dr. Narcissus, you know what to expect from this movie. It's fucking weird.
I will say it's not normal Terry Gilliam weird. Like, okay, I feel this movie has a lot more in common with something like his film Jabberwocky than it would something like Brazil.
I would say that the Terry Gilliam, if he could have been full on 100% no holds barred, let him do whatever he wanted to do with this movie, it would have been a lot fucking weirder. Unfortunately, this film was produced by George Harrison.
Yeah.
Who is a little bit more like, no, you're not going to do that. This needs to be a fun fantasy film for kids and families because I'm a Beatle. And a bit of a hippie.
But here's the thing as well, is if it wasn't for George Harrison, this movie wouldn't have happened. Nobody wanted to give Terry Gilliam the money to make a movie that wasn't a Monty Python movie at this point in time. The only person who was willing to do that was George Harrison.
Yeah.
And the good thing about this movie is it did launch a post-Monty Python career for Terry Gilliam, so good for that, specifically because I love The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, I love Brazil, I love The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, like, I like a lot of Terry Gilliam films. This one's okay.
I mean, it's a good film. It's really cool how they, there's a running gag with two of the characters, played by Michael Palin and Shelley Duvall, who I totally didn't remember was in this movie. And then after I started, I was like, oh, that's Shelley Duvall. Okay, all right, I remember now when we watched it. But as they're going through different periods of time, they always show up. Like, their ancestors are always there, of course, having something horrible happening to them. There's a really cool scene in this movie, by the way, involving Robin Hood and his merry men, and showing
played by John Cleese,
showing what they were really like, showing that Robin Hood is the only one who's dressed in like green tights and all that. You know, the merry men are all lepers, and he's a bit of an asshole, which was pretty funny. John Cleese just being John Cleese, which is great.
Which is a big fan. I think he did fine in this movie.
He's fantastic. I love the characterization. Yeah. What's really cool, though, right, is that you see the merry men in the background. Remember, this film was filmed in 1981. And you can see in the background, during the scene, Little John and William Scarlet. And they look exactly like Little John and William Scarlet from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and subsequently also Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Which I then brought up to you whenever you mentioned this, and then Will Scarlet and Robin Hood Prince of Thieves was played by
Christian Slater.
Everything, so so many people have all these connections to Kevin Bacon, and I understand that. But now I want to create X degrees of Christian Slater.
6 degrees of Christian Slater?
Yeah, because Christian Slater in the 80s and 90s, like late 80s in the early 90s, was like Jack Nicholson light. Everybody was like really into Christian Slater, and he was in everything.
I mean, he was in a lot of things. He was in Broken Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good movie.
He was in The Wizard. That was not a good movie.
He was in The Wizard? Oh, yeah, that's right. He was.
Yeah, he was. He was the older brother.
Him and John Ritter.
Yeah.
He's another person who was in a lot of really weird shit in the 80s and 90s. Like, stay tuned. We should talk about that movie one day.
We should. I think we should also focus here on the fact that, like, in passing, you mentioned the David Warner thing.
Yes.
Like, I just want to throw out there, because I like to tell everybody this story. Whenever I was like 8 years old, I went as Sark from Tron on Halloween, and you have to realize this was 1994. So like Tron was not in any kind of resurgence. I was just a nerd kid who liked Tron, and nobody fucking got it except for like a handful of adults that are like, aren't you that bad guy from Tron? It was surreal. Like, I made the entire outfit out of like some of it was sewn and some of it was just fucking poster board for like the helmet and stuff. And yeah, that's forever going to be my David Warner role. And anytime somebody brings up David Warner, I like to tell them that I went as Sark on Halloween. So
whenever David Warner comes up, I always like to point out that he was originally supposed to play Freddy Krueger,
Mm-hmm.
but had to drop out of the role because of a prior commitment, and that's how Robert Englund got the role. So, thank you, David Warner. You've saved a movie franchise.
So what is that? What is that prior commitment? What year did the original Nightmare on Elm Street film?
It filmed between 81 and 83 and came out in 84.
So during that point in time, he was doing Time Bandits.
I think it wasn't Time Bandits. I think it was the movie after Time Bandits.
The French Lieutenant's Woman.
When did that come out?
That was in 81, and then Tron was 82.
Oh, dude, it would have been Tron.
Probably Tron.
Would have been Tron, yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that he was in Tron. He's the reason I like Tron so much. I feel that anything that doesn't use Sark, that tries to be Tron related, it fails.
You gotta remember from this perspective too. You have a small little tiny upstart working out of a shopping center in West Hollywood, New Line Cinema, run by like one dude, his sister, and a handful of other people are like, we want you to be in this really low budget, only going to be released in like 1,000 theaters nationwide horror film where you're going to play the bad guy, and it's going to be, we don't even have any money to really pay you. Some of the people around here are working on exposure at the moment. And then you get a phone call from Disney, and Disney's all like, we've got $1 billion project here that's going to have all the special effects and money in the fucking world. We even brought in Wendy Carlos to do the soundtrack. It's going to be amazing. We got Jeff fucking Bridges in this movie. What is David Warner going to say? Is he going to be like, no, I want to play Freddy Krueger?
He just got off The Island, which was a movie that didn't do well, even though it starred both him and Michael Caine. Several films that he had prior to this, outside of the Holocaust miniseries, he wasn't really sitting in like a really well-known area in the United States. At least I really feel like it was definitely Tron that skyrocketed him up again. But yeah, that and this, I mean, he's really well known for this movie. So
now we do need to talk about all of the actors, the little people, the actors with dwarfism that are in this film. All of them, one specifically, have, except for one guy. One guy, we're going to remove him. I'll bring him up in a minute. But the rest of them were all actors in the Star Wars franchise. They had all worked in Star Wars together. One specifically, Kenny Baker, was the man who operated R2-D2.
Still operates R2-D2.
And they all, like the other ones that all played
Well, he
Ewoks.
did until he passed.
I was going to say, yeah, he passed away. all of them had been Ewoks or Jawas and other little things that they needed in the film, but they had all worked together except for one guy, David Rappaport, who plays the main dwarf in the film, and he had a completely separate career where he did things like L.A. Law and Captain Planet and stuff like that. He was a really weird dude, had a really weird career. He actually ended up working with Mark Hamill in another film later on. But yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. All of the actors at the end of the film, they all got top billing. At the beginning of the movie, they don't. The beginning of the movie is like David Warner, John Cleese, Michael Palin. Let's put up the major stars first.
Yeah, you pull people in with the major stars, but the actual stars of the movie get top billing at the end. It's a common thing in movies. So like, let's say you have Christian Slater for 30 seconds. You're going to put him in top billing at the beginning of a movie, but then at the end, if it's like he's a bit character, he's probably going to be like pretty far down that list. So.
Now, my favorite David Rappaport moment of all time, though, is not in this movie. It was in an episode of The Young Ones where he plays a demon. And he, when he shows up, everybody starts making fart jokes. And then he electrocutes, he electrocutes Neil, which just makes Neil have a really great idea. And then he kills a guy from Kellogg's, and then a cop steals his car. The Young Ones was great.
Young Ones was great. Young Ones is a very Scrubhouse television series.
I need to watch that at some point on TV Party Night.
Wow, I just noticed that Charles Bronson has a hard line where it disappears whenever I turn my head. Look at that.
I was noticing that. I was like looking at it going like, why does he only have 2 of them on there?
And there is no more Bronson. But now Bronson is back. And it's actually a 3 Bronson hat.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's 3 Bronsons on there. He keeps disappearing. Charles, don't you want to be a part of the podcast?
Only 1.5 of them, apparently.
Yeah.
Shout outs to this members only.
This movie gets 1.5 Bronsons.
For me, yeah. Out of 5, 1.5 Bronsons. No, I'm playing. It's not 3. That I
don't. So, of course, all of our films have that one moment. That makes it,
we didn't bring up that one moment for Heathers, but I think which moment
it was the explosion.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I would also
What would you say? What was the other one?
It was literally the Christian Slater gun thing.
Oh, the where he pulls the gun out. Yeah, well, I'll put both of them in there. They're both good scenes. Yeah. Here with Time Bandits, there's so many that you could choose from. Let's hash this out real quick since we're on here. I think it's the end of the movie. I think it's the end of the movie where you find out that it's quote unquote all just a dream. Or you find out, no, it wasn't just a dream. It's actually all really happened. But from that perspective, for a moment, it's the kid is choking on something, and then he realizes, no, the house is on fire. And firefighters are coming to save him. And the firefighters all get him out of the house, and his parents are sitting there just being all like, why did our house burn down? And they're like, yeah, somebody left the toaster oven on, and that did it. And when they open up the toaster oven, it's a chunk of pure evil. And the kid warns them, he goes, don't touch it, it's pure evil.
Dad, it's evil, don't touch it.
To which the parents are immediately like, really? Mom. And they explode.
They just explode, yeah. No, that is the moment. That is the moment in this movie for me.
This entire neighborhood is watching these 2 people explode. This child is now an orphan. He turns around and he looks at the firefighters, and the one who had been in the movie earlier, Sean Connery played Agamemnon. And he'd been in the movie earlier as like a Roman gladiator who was like taking care of this kid for a little while. He's now playing one of the firefighters. He turns around, looks at the kid, and winks.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. It was like just leaves him as a fucking orphan, like he knows.
Good luck, kid.
Good luck. So I guess that boils down to the all-important question: do you think this is a Scrubhouse movie?
I do.
I don't.
It's got
now. Do you want? Go ahead.
All right. Here we go. You go ahead and do your little argument, and we'll talk about it. This will be fun. This will be an extra long episode of the podcast where we hash this.
No, it won't. It won't be because it's short and sweet. I feel that this is Terry Gilliam's weakest work. I feel like this movie has shades of Jabberwocky in it. This is clearly a movie that wanted to cash in on the fact that he was from Monty Python, and did it in a very not great way. Sure, you get people in there like John Cleese and Michael Palin, but at the same time, you can tell that he's trying to distance himself while still riding off his own star power. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me at all. I feel like the jokes miss a lot of the times in this film. It's all around. It's not entertaining to me. I would much rather watch the dry, almost boring Jabberwocky than I'd like to watch Time Bandits. Time Bandits rolls on too long. The only saving grace in this movie, besides David Warner, is Tony Jay. And the reason that Tony Jay is great is just because he does the voice of Shere Khan from fucking Tailspin. That's like literally the only thing that does it for me, besides David Warner, of course. I don't feel this is a Scrubhouse movie. I don't feel this is a Scrubhouse movie, just like I wouldn't say that Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a Scrubhouse movie. Would I say Monty Python and the Life of Brian is a Scrubhouse movie? Yes, because it's a different style of humor, even though it falls around the same lines. That being said, it's not a bad movie. I'd give it a C.
I think this is a Scrubhouse movie. And the reason I think this is a Scrubhouse movie is that this movie is weird. Yeah,
that doesn't make a movie a Scrubhouse movie.
It's not super, super weird. But when it does have its most weird moments, it's moments that you're not going to find anywhere else. Like, they make a joke out of the Titanic.
Yeah.
Like, and what's great about it is that when they do the Titanic scene, you have Michael Palin and Shelley Duvall again are sitting there and they're leaning on the railing. Oh, we can't wait to get to America. It's gonna be so nice when we get to America. And then the midgets just come falling on top of them again, right? And when that scene happens and they freak out and run away, it cuts back to the kid dealing with Agamemnon and being in, the Greek or Rome or wherever the fuck it was that movie took place. When it cuts back to them, now they're all in tuxedos. They're drinking martinis. They're smoking cigars. Like, yeah, we just adapted. They found a bunch of tuxedos that would fit little people. Where the fuck did they find those? Never explained. It's hilarious. So when they cut back to that scene, you're just busting out laughing. It's great. Also, this movie inspired something. And I'm very happy that it happened. This movie was an inspiration for the Zork games. Specifically Return to Zork, with the barrier that blocks Pure Evil's lair being glass that you can't walk through, but you can see through it, and it just looks like the horizon travels forever. When they throw the skull at it and it breaks, I mean, it's an amazing visual effect for 1981. B,
I'll give you that.
It's a super cool fucking scene. Like, all of them turn around and they're like, oh shit, we just broke the world. Wait a minute. That's Pure Evil's hideout. Oh, we're in for it now. And there's also a bunch of other really cool scenes, too. The scene where they're hanging from the cages is really neat. And of course, I really do feel like you have to give props to any movie where it's a children's movie that has a fucking explosion that kills people. Like, yeah,
I just feel like it's the weakest of Gilliam's works. I'm sorry.
Multiple people in this movie explode. They crushed a midget at one point. It was hilarious. And then, of course, when the Supreme Being shows up, when Tony Jay shows up, he's just fucking the biggest asshole. This movie,
I enjoy his part in this movie, and I enjoy David Warner's part in this movie. I think the kid is annoying.
Oh, British know-it-all fucking kids are annoying.
It's a hard set for me. I'm sorry. Like we can disagree on this one. I have a hard time saying it's a Scrubhouse film.
All right. Well, okay, so going forward, I don't want this to happen again. Unless it's a movie neither one of us have seen. Because I fought against movies that we were going to put on a list that you wanted to put on. I was like, I don't feel like this is a Scrubhouse film. I feel like this isn't going to go over well. I don't like this movie being on the list. So
my enjoyment of a movie is null and void of somebody else's enjoyment of a movie. Whether or not I like this movie and I feel like it fits a mold doesn't mean that somebody else won't. And far be it for me to take away from somebody's enjoyment in something that they might like.
I just don't want to put you through something that you're definitely not going to enjoy.
I'll do it. I don't fucking care. I've watched Manos: The Hands of Fate with no riff tracks, motherfucker. Like, whenever it comes down to it, I've watched bad movies. And is this a bad movie? No. It's not a good movie, in my opinion, but it's a different kind of not good movie. And it doesn't matter. Like, I'll watch it regardless.
All right. If you say so. I just don't want I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position. That's all I'm saying.
It's not an uncomfortable position like the back of a Volkswagen.
Speaking of uncomfortable positions, it's time to do... Well, I got to do my rating. I still haven't done my rating. I give it a B. I give it a B.
I'm a B.
Okay, now we can get to the uncomfortable position. You have an unfortunate announcement to make.
We both have unfortunate announcements to make.
No, I want you to do it.
I don't think it's an unfortunate announcement, but the East Tennessee VHS Fest has been indefinitely postponed. We're looking for a date, possibly August or July is what we're looking at here. It's going to bring us more into summer. And that might actually allow for more outdoor vendors and things to do. And it's going to help us actually expand what it was. So while it kind of sucks, we were so close, COVID-19 might have did us a little bit of a favor because it lets us have more time to plan. So that's put on hold. We'll have more information for you as things move forward.
Yeah, and it really sucks because I was looking forward to coming up that weekend and hanging out with you. I never get to do anything anymore. And yeah, that's about it for us. I mean, I don't really have anything. I don't have any exciting news to tell anybody about that I can talk about. Rather, I've
well, the Mania weekend thing got canceled, did it not?
It did. Yeah, that got canceled.
Didn't you sponsor us with that? So you should probably bring that up.
I probably should. Yeah. Crux Wrestling's Damn It Carrie Not Again did get canceled because of COVID. Actually, it got canceled because WrestleMania closed, which sucks. But flip side to that, though, the COVID-19 stuff, sucking in general, has actually done a lot for the wrestling industry as far as, like, doing cool online shit. So... Did you just disarm a bomb?
No, our timer is hit.
You gotta stop doing the timers that make noise because that distracts me every time. But no, one of the, and I'm NDA'd on this, so I can't really talk about it too much. But one of the wrestling shows I work on is doing a weekly thing in the future. Possibly, we don't know yet. It might be coming out soon.
Cheers to that. Also, try Mountain Dew Maui Burst.
Ooh, that's
it is Dollar General exclusive, I guess because yellow, but it's pineapple Mountain Dew. It's my addiction.
And while we're plugging things, Natty Light.
No.
Good beer.
Okay, first off, no, it's not. Secondly, it's cheap.
It's a fantastic beer for the price. I like Natty Light. I drank Busch Light last night, and
God,
Natty Light's better.
Well, yeah.
Hey, at least we weren't drinking Milwaukee's Best.
Milwaukee's Beast.
The Beast.
I don't drink anymore, so.
Yeah. Well, you don't drink beer.
I don't drink.
You don't drink liquor either?
I've had one beer in the past year.
I thought you still drank liquor occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like me, I don't drink liquor at all anymore.
No, I whenever all of my health issues started, I stopped drinking. and that's been about a year. It was for the betterment of myself. I don't do nicotine anymore either. I just drink way too much caffeine.
Yeah, I still do nicotine. Speaking of which, I need a cigarette. Next week, we will be doing the films that inspired Silent Hill.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
That's gonna be all Scrubhaus movies. Every single fucking one of those movies is Scrubhaus as fuck.
There's one of them I haven't seen, and that was Paper House.
Paper House is really fucking good. Holy shit! I want you to vote for Paper House. I really want to. This is my like, because this is when I was putting the list together. I was like, I'm gonna, these 4 movies like The Mist, Jacob's Ladder, whatever. People know these as being like, and Phantoms. These are movies that people like. We know that Silent Hill is fuck. People don't know about Paper House. I'm trying to introduce people to Paper House. Vote for Paper House. Holy fuck. Paper House is fucking rad.
I know what I'm voting for already. I'm sorry.
Is it not Paper House?
Well, Ben Affleck is the bomb in Phantom Joe, and I love Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder. If you're gonna watch a Silent Hill movie, it's Jacob's Ladder. Jacob's Ladder is the one that specifically inspired.
I feel like I feel like we have members that have not watched Jacob's Ladder, and I feel like we have members that will fall in love with Jacob's Ladder. So I feel like Jacob's Ladder is definitely a need to watch, and Ben Affleck is the bomb in Phantom Joe.
Yeah, and I mean, no, like people make that joke because of Jay and Silent Bob, but
he actually is
literally,
the bomb.
Yeah, I mean, that's got. I mean, you're talking about Ben Affleck, and what Liev Schreiber? That his name?
Yeah, Rose McGowan.
No, the guy that played Cotton
Liev Schreiber. Yeah, you're right. But you have Rose McGowan.
Rose McGowan's in it.
And it was written by Dean Koontz. And what was that shirt that says Dean Koontz is a kind of cool writer?
I mean, this is probably his only well-known work. He's not like Stephen King, who has, Stephen King puts out a book, it gets movie optioned immediately. Dean Koontz puts out a book and nobody gives a shit until Phantoms.
I don't know. He did Watchers. Watchers was real good.
I don't think I've
seen it. What? It's a Corey Haim film, man.
Well, that instantly just killed my boner.
Dude, Watchers is awesome. It has Michael Ironside in it.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Michael fucking Ironside?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Why didn't we put that on Michael Ironside night? I know we were struggling to come up with a 5th film for that.
I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't even think about it. But yeah, dude, Watchers is absolutely wonderful, and I think you would dig it. It's kind of like a Predator-ish.
Hey, Predator's awesome. I can't be hating on Predator. But yeah, so that's what we got going on with next week's films. We're gonna be doing, like I said, it's gonna be Silent Hill stuff. So we had Jacob's Ladder, got a Paper House, which I implore everybody, like, you're fucking Paper House will blow your fucking mind. Session 9, The Mist, Phantoms, and Jacob's Ladder. I mean, it's the Silent Hill movies. If you like Silent Hill the games, any of these movies is good. I'm gonna be pushing for 2 of them specifically, but I mean, that's how these votes work. Put in your 2 votes, and we'll see what happens.
I want to apologize for telling people adamantly to take mushrooms and watch Richie Rich. If you actually took mushrooms and watched Richie Rich, I'm sorry. You should have taken mushrooms and watched The Adventure of Pluto Nash instead. So you picked the wrong film. My fault.
You told them.
I said my fault. But however, whatever you do not take mushrooms and watch Jacob's Ladder. Just let's get that out of the way right now.
I mean, that movie's literally about LSD, so
yeah, don't take hallucinogens and watch Jacob's Ladder.
Wait a minute. Well, let me rephrase that. That movie is technically, figuratively about taking LSD, but we'll talk about that next week on the Scrubcast.
Maybe. And as always, as we say now, if you're like us, you'll like this. Check it out. Slack flag.
I like the fact that if you're like us, you'll like this, but you didn't like Time Bandits.
I said us, not me. If you're like me, you'll like one of these films. Check it out.